guys, welcome to another ride in the Struggle Bus where every wheel is an empty triangle. Today we've got our next game on the bus ride series, and today we are playing against a very aggressive 9K on OGS. And it's a fun game because of how aggressive he was, and if he's doing that to me, I can only imagine he's even more aggressive to you guys. So it's a pretty fun one. Unfortunately, it's a little tough to stay basic with a game like this where players play aggressively. Obviously, the game is going to turn into fighting pretty quickly. So I kind of transitioned into how to handle aggressive play, which is something I frequently get asked. So hopefully this is a helpful game for you. So come watch the game and see if it turns into a comedy of errors like our last game did, or maybe I'll be able to keep it together and just get a clean win in this one. Only one way to find out, though. I hope you guys enjoy the game. Okay, so we have our game, and we are black this time against a 9K. So again, we are going to be keeping it simple, though I am going to use my typical opening, which is not terribly complicated. And so he opens with a 4-4 and a 3-3, and we can go over the 3-3 later, because I'm sure many of you are a little confused as to what to do with that. But for now, we're going to approach the 4-4. So the deal with the 3-3 is it can be a difficult stone to deal with, but it's also a difficult stone to expand off of, right? If he wants to extend off of this stone, he wants it to be a 3-4 stone. So there's no rush to approach it. And so we just go and approach our opponent's 4-4 stone. And I'm going to back off into the mini Chinese, or he's going to kick, and I'm going to extend because we respond when we get attached to. So I'm just going to extend. He will most likely slide back. Oh, he plays under. We will answer once. Will we answer once, or do we? Yeah, we'll keep it simple. We will answer once, even though it's a second line move. And he responds, and we will do our typical extension. And I know one of our rules is we don't like playing these early second line moves, but this one seems well enough to make sure our group is alive and healthy. He now approaches here, and we already have strength on this side. So typically I would kick and then pincer, but let's just keep it simple, and we will play our diagonal. This just says that I want the right-hand side. And he takes a small extension, and we are going to deny him his base. This is pretty straightforward. We took the right side. He tried to come to the left, and we're going to block him there. And same thing, we're going to Hane here to secure our corner. He's going to descend, and at this point, we are going to also descend. And this is the kind of second line move that we can ignore now. And so we could look at pushing through, and he blocks, and we descend to threaten to Atari, but he doesn't actually need to answer that move. So we're going to play away from this, and we're going to go play against our opponent's 3-3 stone. And so we're going to play the 4-4, which is one of the typical approaches to it. And just like with any other corner, there are different variations, but let's see where he plays. Typically, whatever direction he pushes, you push out as well. So if he plays D17, we're going to play E16. If he plays C16, we're going to play D15. And so he extends, we extend. And if he keeps on extending, we will extend one more time. And then we're going to jump out this way. And so he gets a little territory up top, and we get some strength here. And I'm not sure the intent of that move, but with him having a stone over here, I'm going to push one more time so that we don't get hit on the head of 3. And you're looking at this, and you're probably not loving the result, because influence is tough to use. But when they play 3-3 stone, what else are you going to get off of it? You're certainly not going to get territory over there. So all we're going to be able to get is influence. I'm going to block him this way so that he can't develop a large side off of these stones. And he plays another second line move, and that's just a little too small here, so we're going to stop him from going in the direction that he should be going. And this will work well off of our 4/4 stone. So we're going to take this turn here. And he immediately jumps in here. We have a very strong group here. And especially with influence, groups that are strong like this, they really have one job, and that job is to fight. And I know we're trying to keep it basic, and we don't want to get in big fights, but sometimes our opponents force us to do things, and this is one of those situations where I can't just go, well, I'm not gonna use the thing that I just built up. So I'm going to play this approach here. We're not going to kill the stone. That's not the goal here, but we are going to pressure it. And he's going to jump into the 3/3. And so with this stone here, we can go either way. I'm just going to push him towards the stone, get more strength towards that, so we can further our attack on that. So I'm just going to play the Hane variation because we've got this stone here. So if he pushes one more time, we actually get to Hane on the second line, which is huge. Because it almost forces him to come back here. We will Hane, he'll come back, and we will protect this cut because it's very important that we protect our cuts, especially since we have a cut here and a cut here. We need to protect these. This is our typical shape for this variation. And now this stone, you can see, is really in the middle of nowhere, and it's just not in a good place. And he plays another stone that can be a target. So what we're going to do now is we've got strength here, we've got strength here. We're going to push towards our strength while developing the right side. So we're going to play our extension here, which is a move we kind of wanted anyway, and it pressures this stone and pushes it towards our strength. Again, we're not going to kill any of these stones. That is not the goal. The goal is just to make it difficult for him while we get profit somewhere. So in this situation, he's got a weak group here. He's got a lone stone here, and so we can pressure one and then turn on the other. So, and by turn I mean we'll then go attack the other one. So unfortunately, things are going to get a little tricky here. Again, our opponent is forcing us to play a more of an influence-heavy and attacking game, which will turn into fights, which is what we're trying to avoid. But it's not like you can just avoid this in your games. We're going to see this all the time in your games. So what are we going to do here? I'm going to strengthen this group. Again, we have strength here. These stones look like they want to run this way, so we're going to play this to block them from running one direction. And as they run this direction, we will split them off of this stone, which is what we will do with this. And now you can kind of see that this stone is in the middle of nowhere. And again, I don't want to go and kill this stone. That would be a little much right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump around a little bit, and we're going to play this approach because we've got these two stones. He's got this strong group. We both kind of want to expand here, and I'm going to play closer to his group, with the intent of getting strength here to then extend off these two stones. But he is playing quite aggressively. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that this group is a little stronger. This stone is still fine where it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to extend up this way. This will strengthen this whole area for when we eventually go and turn on this. And he's pressuring this stone some more. We're just going to jump out to connect up with this group. And he now has another group of weak stones. And so if you look at this, white has 1, 2, 3 weak groups on this board. And so he's got to be really mindful because this is a very easy way to get in trouble because he's just going to have too much to manage. So he's coming back and he's managing this, but he's left these groups behind. So I'm going to play this move to further pressure these stones. And it does leave behind a cut, but that's a cut that I'm not concerned about because we have the strength here. And that's a very important thing to consider when we are attacking and defending is, can we endure the cuts, right? Because we're saying we need to protect our cuts, and that's very, very true. But there are times where we do not need to, and this is one of those times. So I'm going to play this knight's move. It's a more aggressive move, and it does leave the cut open. And I suspect by our friend's play here that he is going to cut this. He does not. He runs out to get strength for his group. And so we're going to run as well. Although here we're not so much running, we're staying ahead of his group while also getting ahead of this stone. And because his group here is weak, he is forced to get some strength for it, else this group could potentially die, get in a lot of trouble. And while we're doing that, we are naturally surrounding this stone. And so now the question is, how do we want to go and attack this stone? And at this point, really, our goal is pretty much to kill that stone in the largest way we can. And so we can just look at extending again. We can look at this knight's move, and I think I will just keep it a little simpler. I actually like this from a shape perspective. We've got the knight's move, we've got the large knight's move. It works off this wall better, and it's closer to his stone here. So we're going to play this, and we are now turning our attack onto this stone, which is going to struggle to make eye space in here. And so we can transition into going over how to reduce eye space and transition into killing a stone. And this game is actually a good example of what you guys see with aggressive players, because white is playing aggressive here, which I definitely enjoy. But part of that is they leave a lot of weaknesses behind. And so while he's going and fixing all of his weaknesses, we're getting actual, benefits out of this. He's got a corner. He's got a pretty big corner here. He's got what's going to be a very small corner here as we reduce it. And so he doesn't have too many points on this board. We also don't have too many points, but our trade-off is we got all the strength, and now we're going to use that strength to convert into points. As the perfect example here is this large area. And so from here on out, we can just look at solidifying our territories and reducing his. And so here I am going to push through here. And threaten to get that stone. And then we're going to slide over here to really reduce what this corner turns into. I suspect he's going to play c3. This is already looking pretty cramped. And so I'm just going to, so we can look at something like b2. b2 potentially kills his group. That is not what we're looking to do here, but I just want to point out that this was this corner wasn't very big, and he was ignoring when we got strength here. So playing b2 very likely kills this group. Instead, we're just going to play b3. We're just going to keep it simple. You do not need to kill groups to win games, though in this case I think we did have to kill that. And so now we can look at other large moves. We've got J6, which will expand this and stop him from expanding this group. We've got S10 as a mutual point that we both want. And we can just look at G18, which threatens some large endgame. For now, I'm going to play J6 just to grow this potential here. And it looks like he's going to come back to connect up here. So there's a cut here that we can start looking at now, because it's clear that this stone is looking to connect to this. And so if we cut here, he could Atari and we'd be able to connect this, or he can Atari and we'd stand up here. And so this is a cut that I'm probably going to go after, because he's just got so many cuts in this shape. We've got a knight's move, and this is what happens typically with aggressive players, is they leave all these shape weaknesses behind. So as long as we stay nice and strong, our groups look really strong on this board, then we can eventually start poking at their weaknesses. And so I'm going to do that now. I'm going to take this cut. Again, kind of diverging from what we look at for basics, but you do have to sometimes match the energy of your opponent. And again, when we play aggressive players, eventually we do have to start poking at their weaknesses, because that's the whole point, is you get your strength while they're flying all over the board and playing their very aggressive moves. And then later in the game, you use their weaknesses to get them. So here we can block, and either we get to connect or we get to capture this stone. Those are the two options here. And so we will go and capture this stone. And actually, I misread. Because he can Atari here, and then Atari me here, and then Atari us here, and capture those stones. So you want to know what? We are going to give these 3 stones up, because we messed up. Which happened last game too. So I'm breaking my own rules. I am going to protect my cutting points. So I am going to play right here to protect the cutting points. I'm getting a little ahead of myself with these very basic sequences, huh? And so he plays this, and we can just play this exchange, but now he has a cut here that we need to be concerned about. So we are going to block here. And he plays a nice big move, and we are going to block that because this is late enough in the game that we do care about these large second line moves. This move, however, is not big enough. So I'm going to play another large second line move, and that is this one right here. And he ignored the move. So we now need to look at, do we have to respond to this? And we have to be aware that we've got a knight's move here. And so this stone is going to help with this cut. And so we are going to play here to ensure that we do not get cut. And we will block this. We will let our opponent build this up. That is okay. And this is a good direction for him to be going. But we've got a lot of ways to poke into it. And so we can play here to threaten to poke in. And so this isn't going to turn into too many points, as where this territory is likely going to be large enough to win the game by itself. So this is a strange wedge. We can look at Atarying from outside, but we do not need to. So we're just going to play here. And now if he cuts, we've got the Atari and the connect, and so we're fine there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push in here, because again, I said he's got all these ways to go in. We're going to pick this one because it threatens to capture these 2 stones. And now we get to push in again. And we can even take the Atari. And so maybe that's what we'll do. We'll take this Atari, and then we'll play this Tiger's Mouth. And then this whole territory that he was trying to build up is pretty much going to be ruined. And I was saying all along, it was going to be a tough territory for him to keep. And I will gladly exchange this stone for that stone. So now he still isn't going to get too much here. And so I think we're going to play some larger endgame moves. And so we have this one, and then we have this one, and then we have this one. And so here I'm just identifying the large endgame moves that I consider to be sente, that I think my opponent will answer. We have this Atari here, which we will take. And then we've got this deceptively large endgame. Or we have the monkey jump, or we can threaten to push through. So this is only 1 point, but it's sente, so we will take it. And we also have R1 is pretty large. So we're going to play R1. And at this point, this game looks pretty over. White doesn't have too much territory, so let's go take a look at how the game ended. So we are finishing the game up now. There are only a few moves left. And there's some life and death up here that I'm not gonna touch, but you guys can take a look at that and see if you can figure out what is going on there. but for now we're just going to leave it. Yeah. And he found it, and he fixed it. So what we have is this 1-point ko, which I'll see if he's willing to fight once, and then we'll pass. It is not worth dragging this out. And that is not a ko threat. So we will connect. And he will pass, and we will pass. So here's the end of the game, and we are up by about 35 points. But we got caught again in this game, so I'm definitely, I think, finally learned my lesson that after I say the game is over and let's go to the end and I start clicking along, I still need to stay with it, because White actually was ahead at one point in this game because he had managed to kill these stones and live in here, but then he missed the Atari. So anyway, let's take a look at how this game went. And again, I've been really impressed with the level of play from our opponents these games. I don't know if that's just saying that I'm playing poorly, but these guys they seem to be playing really well. So nothing too crazy. You know, we typically don't see this move. I think this is a fine response for it. And then we get our extension. This feels a little worse for White than if he had just come back, because White really wants to still play this move, and then this exchange isn't the greatest. But he Tanuki'd, which is fine, but we can see already that White plays aggressively. This is the most concentrated part of the board, and we don't need more stones here, but he is already throwing in a stone to try to get in here. And I know this is a tough play style to play against. It's true for you guys. It's true for me. But there are strategies that we can do that we showed a little bit in this game, and that's basically just stay strong. And the fights are going to happen. You can't avoid them with a player like this. But as long as your group stays strong, when the fights do start, you'll be in a good position for it. And so we could have considered the kick, and then either just jumping up and letting him live small, or we can go the way that we did, which was just with the Kosumi here. And so he came back. He probably should have taken the 2-point, but this is a reasonable move too. But now we can get his base away. He's going to go for the corner, and he lives, but he lives small, and he does so in Gote. And again, we could respond to this move, but we'd be doing so with a second line move, which is too early for second line moves unless we need them to live. This group is perfectly fine here. So we do not need to play the second line move. It is too small on this board. You will notice that when we played away, if you were White this game, would you follow up this move? Would you play something to reduce this? I don't think so, and he didn't either. He correctly went after, responded to this stone. And so, again, with a 3/3 stone, all we're really going to be able to get is influence off of this. You can leave this stone alone. You don't have to approach it. You can go extend your corner. You can approach from the third line. There's options here. I chose the influence approach. And maybe I shouldn't have, because that's a little less basic, and it isn't what you guys would do in your game. But I do like using influence. And so we go, and I go and extend here. White should have played the Hane at the head of 3. And that's what I was expecting. And we can Hane, we can extend. But I forget where White played. This is a little too... Interestingly enough, this is both passive and aggressive at the same time. He's already looking to take away what we've got here. It seems like White's play style is whatever you've got, I'm going to go get to make sure you don't get that thing, which likely works a lot, right? That's, again, it's a tough play style to play against, but you have to be aware that your opponents are allowed to get things too, and so if you try to take all the things from them, you're going to end up falling behind, because you're going to leave too many weaknesses behind. And so we just extended, and he further went away with, to try to take away what we were getting. But we were actually just looking to get influence, and so we weren't interested in these third line moves, except for here to block him. and then he descended and played another early second line move. And so we're seeing a lot of second line moves from this player. And for him, I'll say keep your play style. It's awesome, and I'm jealous that you can play as aggressively as you do. But these second line moves this early in the game are going to get you because they're just too small, and you're giving your opponents too much time to Tanuki and take the big points. Because here I was able to take this turn, which is significantly larger than what you've got because of the 4/4 stone, and it just stops your potential just on dead on the spot. And then he immediately goes in. He sees, hey, Black's getting something here. I'm going to go take it away. And so this is where we can start really looking at the whole board and how we go about playing against aggressive players like this. Again, just keep your cool. We've already got our strength here. And so he's playing another stone. And so if we want to go attack this stone, which we do so by playing a little farther away. He's got a 4th line stone. The knight's move on the 3rd line is a good way to approach these stones. And so now white pretty much has to run out. But in this case, he jumped into the corner. And so he left this stone here, which is fine for now. And we block, and we get this. And because of the M17 stone, we're able to Hane in the 2nd line here. And he has to take this variation, which gives Black a lot of thickness. Again, I went over this in previous videos. Many years ago before AI, 3/3s weren't popular because this was the variation we were used to. We were used to white taking this turn, Black blocking, white connecting, and then Black fixing, and this was considered too good for Black. And by too good, we're probably talking like half a point better for Black, right? We're talking AI analyses. But this does give Black a lot of strength, and we already have a target, and so now white's eliminated pretty much everything for the stone except running out. But if he runs out, we're going to build up the right. And so white identifies that and says, hey, Black's got this thing going on the right. I'm going to take that away as well. And so, yep, we're just gonna stay calm. We're gonna go press on this stone as well while developing this. And so you can see white's gonna start leaving too many weaknesses on the board, and it's gonna become an issue. And so here we're treating this as strength. We want to attack. We want to push the stones into our strength. So we're playing on this side. We don't actually want to turn this into points. We want this wall to be used for fighting. We want this wall to be used for fighting, and you'll naturally get points that way. But if you just try to use this to get territory with something like this, it's too easy for white. White can even just play a simple move like this, and you're already saying, well, I'm going to turn this into territory. So are you going to play something like this and go get your 8-9 points? That's not how we like using influence. So we instead play on this side to push him into our influence, and which we successfully do. Now this is not a territorial move. This is just to stop him from coming this way while building strength against this stone. So do not confuse this with a territorial move. This is now we're going to start following this group out, and in doing so we're going to get enough strength to go after that stone, which is pretty much exactly what happened. And since he didn't push out this way, we don't have to push out this way, and so I decided to take this time in Tanuki. But unsurprisingly, white has seen black is doing something over here. I'm going to go stop that. And he's creating yet another weak stone. And so this is generally the downfall of aggressive players, and it's tough to catch them on them, right? It's tough to catch them on these moves. But white is just making a lot of weak groups all over the board. So if we just stay strong, that's all this move is. It's just gaining more strength. We gain strength against this stone. We gain strength against this stone. We're gaining strength against if this group wants to run to the left. It's going to be tough for all three of these groups to do well. And so he goes after this stone. We come back to defend. He peeps. We connect. And then he goes back and connects. But in doing this, he's now made his corner weaker, right? Because I mentioned early on, white still wanted this move, right? He still wants this move from this corner. And so now white's got a corner that he probably should play another move on. He's got this stone, which is significantly weaker because of this stone now. And he's got this group, which is also a little bit weaker. And so now I decide, okay, we're going to press on this group. When it's eventually going to get out, we're then going to turn and kill this stone, which is what ended up happening. And so that is what this series of moves is. And at this point, there's really nothing white can do to save this. Now, I say that ironically because white did end up saving this stone because I made a mistake later. And so it's not fair for me to say it's, well, now the stone's dead, because if I'm capable of making a mistake through reading, then it's an easy enough mistake to make. So I don't want to trivialize how tough it is to actually kill a stone like this. But here, that stone is pretty much dead. And so this is him continuing to run down. And so now we're kind of transitioning into endgame type moves. And here I mentioned this is a huge move because this corner isn't strong. And I mentioned in game that B2 likely kills. I have not fully read it out. I don't want my games to turn into Samago fests, and so part of it is I didn't want to have to do the full reading, make you guys sit there and wait while I do all the reading. I didn't want him to, it to turn into a big stressful situation for him, and I knew that I was ahead this game, so I decided to just play here. But again, aggressive players tend to leave weaknesses behind. If you look at this, it's going to be tough for him to turn both of these into eyes. If he plays here, we can do something like this, and that potentially pokes this eye out. Again, there's stuff here, right? I would have had to have done a lot of reading to see if the corner is actually dead, and so I decided to just extend, which threatens to kill it on the spot, and so he defends. And we now just start, again, transitioning into endgame type moves. This is just expanding our territory while reducing his. And so I want to jump ahead to where things did go awry, because there are two situations. Here was one when I played this. I've got the rule right there on the board that says protect your cuts. I've got a cut right here that I didn't protect. So I really need to do a better job of also following my own rules, because here, if white does this, and then this, and then this, my stones are dead. And so shame on me for just playing too quickly and going through and also not looking at my cuts. But more importantly, even if this doesn't work, I'm telling you guys that you need to protect your cuts. I need to be a good example of that. So a move too late here, but I did realize that this cut needed to be protected. And he goes and captures those stones. We block here, and he takes this. And interesting to note, AI has pretty much said that our 15-point lead is pretty much mostly diminished. But from here on out, we're able to get good reductions on black while my group gets solidified there. So now we're pretty much back to being in good control here. I mentioned that when I played this, that he wasn't going to be able to turn this territory into points, or this area into any territory. And in trying to do so, in trying to get points here, he fully solidified this group here, and then still left this weakness behind. If he ignores this and does something like this, then we get to capture these two stones, which might just be okay for white. This might be a better result than what happened in the game, because he played here, we were able to get the Atari and then get completely in. So yes, he saved these two stones, but he lost all the points in here. And so I think this was a good exchange for black. Now, so let's get to the fun part, because it was at this point where I said, hey, this game's over, let's go to the end. And then you guys didn't get to see how this actually played out. So we're just doing typical small endgame stuff. So this is where things get a little hairy. And I got a little lazy with it because I was like, there's no way anything in here works. Yeah, we have cuts, but we're fine. But I should have taken a little more time to read this out. Everything is fine until here. So we needed to just Atari down and then play this Tiger's Mouth, and then everything is fine. We threaten to kill this group. If he Ataris, we get to connect, and he still only has 2 liberties, and so we'd be able to connect under. And everything is fine in the world, but that is not what we did. We instead just protected here, which ends up actually killing these stones. So at this point, these 5 stones are alive, and these 4 stones are dead, and white is now winning this game. And so I yet again got nervous because you guys saw the last game, and so I'm sitting here questioning myself. I'm like, man, am I even capable of doing these types of games? And so we're still learning on it. Unfortunately for white, later on in the game, as this goes, he missed that this move reduces him to 2 liberties while we also have 2 liberties. And so he played away, and we captured this and gained back the lead, that the 30 points that we lost, and then some, and now we are back in control of the game. But either way, our opponent played exceptionally well again this game. I've been saying that for pretty much all my opponents. I'm impressed with their level of play, and hopefully this was helpful for you guys to see how we can go about playing against aggressive players, while also showing that yes, it's hard, and that even I fell for the tricks of an aggressive player. So I understand the frustration that many of you have when you play against them. So I empathize. Either way, thank you guys for coming out on another bus ride today. I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you for coming out for another ride in the struggle bus where every wheel's in the triangle. We'll see you guys next time. Before I let you guys go, I want to thank all of my Patreons. I greatly appreciate your support. And if you are interested in getting teaching games and or reviews, or just want to look to support the channel, check out the Patreon. I have some good rewards there, and they're nice and affordably priced. Either way, you don't need to do it. Just watching the videos is enough. So thanks for coming out for another ride in the struggle bus where every wheel is in the triangle. Have a good one, guys.